bunch of questions about the entire retirement process, tips, tricks, and secrets, how to do it, when to do it, things to be careful of, can you change your mind, and all that. So we'll get into the live Q&A. If you're watching this on a recording, make sure you subscribe, and that way if you do have a question when you're ready to go to this process, or you get some funny letter from Social Security, you know where to find us, and you can come back here and ask a question. All right. So let's go through it. We've got a lot to talk about today. The first part I usually do, if you're new to my channel, I do a topic of the day. Usually takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I get into answering people's questions live. But this one is going to take a little bit longer. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's go ahead and just get started with it. When to start your Social Security. So we're talking about Social Security retirement benefits. And Social Security considers retirement benefits retirement on your own record, spouse benefits, because that's retirement. You can't do it until you're 62. We'll talk about exceptions here. Survivor benefits, that's actually also considered a retirement type of claim because you can't do that until you're 60 years old. And then we're talking also auxiliaries, and so we'll get into all that. So let's go through the numbers real quick before we get into the meat of it. With Social Security, obviously, at any age, you can start collecting your disability benefits. So for disability benefits, if you're disabled, unable to work, and your disability is going to last 12 months or longer, then you can file for disability at any time, okay? There's another disability type of application. It's called disabled widows benefits. So if you are a widow, widower, the surviving spouse, you can file for disability benefits on the deceased spouse's record. Okay, and then this is one a lot of people miss. You can start your retirement benefits based on a deceased spouse's record at 60 years old. People think that it's 62 years old and they wait. We just had someone in our community about a day or so ago that lost 2 years of benefits because they had their person's husband passed and they were waiting till 62 to get that surviving spouse benefit. And we're like, no, you could have gotten that 2 years ago. So that was unfortunate. So you can get surviving spouse benefits, which is Social Security considers a retirement type of benefit. It comes out of the retirement trust fund. You can get that at 60 years old. Anytime you take Social Security benefits from, benefits from Social Security early, except for, disability benefits, it's always reduced. So if you're taking survivor benefits at 60, it's going to be reduced from if you take it at 67. Survivor benefits is a little different calculation in there, but we're not going to go too deep into that one. In terms of regular old retirement benefits on your own record, 62 is the earliest you can start benefits on your own record. And one of the tricks is you have to be 62 the entire month. And Social Security considers you obtaining that age the day before. So if your birthday is on January 2nd, Social Security considers you obtaining that age on January 1st, the day before. But Social Security, you have to file, you have to be 62 the entire month. After that, it doesn't matter, 63, whatever. But if you're going to start your benefits at 62, you have to be 62 the entire month. And remember that Social Security always pays kind of a month late. So that if you're starting your benefits in January, you'll get your first check in February. If you start your benefits in February, you get your first check in March. So, okay. So 62 and then 65, not really super relevant for anything in terms of retirement now. It used to be, for many, many, many decades, going back to 1935, that's when full retirement age was 65 years old. The only thing 65 really represents now is Medicare, and we'll get into Medicare a little bit later. Full retirement age is, for anybody born 1960 and after now, is 67 years old. So that's when you receive your full benefit amount. So anything earlier than that, then you're going to receive a reduced amount. If you were born before 1960, then the chart. It's 66 and 8 months or 10 months or whatever the case may be. Actually, if you don't know, then you can go to my website. Completely free. It's mygovexpert.com. You click on the little retirement button there, and you can, I've got information on understanding the benefits, and then you can calculate your full retirement age. And a lot of places, you can go to socialsecurity.gov and do this as well. But there, it doesn't show the actual day in the month. So let's say you were born February 5th, 1957. You push that little button there, and your full retirement is 66 and 6 months. And pretty much other websites stop there. But my free calculator tells you exactly when that is, September 2023. So there's a bunch of free calculators, and you don't need to subscribe or download or give me your email. All these calculators and everything are completely free for y'all to use. And then in terms of when to start, there's actually a when to start calculator. But let's get back a little bit into more of the details. So 67 or 66 and 8 months or 10 months or whatever the case may be, that's your full retirement age. If you wait till after your full retirement age, your benefits will continue to go up. It's called delayed retirement credits, and it will go up 8% every year after your full retirement age that you don't take your benefits. So let's say your full retirement age is 67 years old and you wait until 70. The month you turn 70, that's when those benefits stop increasing based on those delayed retirement credits. So don't wait till after 70. We get people every single week that come into our live Q&A and say, yeah, I'm 72 years old. When should I start benefits? Or like 2 years ago. You can get some retroactive. Usually they're able to get at least 6 months retroactive benefits. So they only lost 1.5 years of benefits. But if you know anybody, that's what our community does. If you're new to our channel, the information, you take it, you apply it to yourself, your immediate family members, and then you take it out and, share, subscribe, like, and also make sure everybody around you is getting everything they're eligible for, everything they need. So if you wait until 70 and your full retirement age is 67, that's 3 years, 8%, 24%, 3 times 8, 24%. So if your benefit amount, let's say, is $1,000 at your full retirement age at 67, if you wait till 70, your full benefit amount will be $1,240. Okay. All right. So now let's see if you actually should wait until 65, 67, 70, or whatever the case may be. But one thing you should definitely do before you do anything, everybody should do this. Check your earnings record. Go to ssa.gov, set up a My Social Security account. I know it's difficult to set up. It's difficult for a reason, to protect your, make sure nobody goes in there and pretends to be you and sets one up. Set it up, and then check your earnings record, how much you paid into Social Security, because that's how they are going to determine how much you get when you retire. Your surviving spouse is going to get how much you receive if you file for disability. All of that is based on how much you actually paid into Social Security. And if Social Security doesn't have the right numbers, you ain't going to receive the right check. Okay. So, and it's not the last year, the last 3 years or 5 years or anything like that. Social Security for retirement determines your benefit amount based on your high 35 years of earnings, your high 35. And they index this for a wage index. So you look at your earnings, and 1980, you only made $20,000, scooping ice cream at some place, and you're like, oh, I made $100,000 last year. So that $20,000 in 1980 is, it's no big deal. That $20,000 in 1980 is probably worth $120,000 today. Because Social Security they take that number in 1980 and 20 and index it, and it's probably worth a little over $100,000 today in today's numbers. And that's the number they use. It's called the averaged indexed monthly earnings. And then they do this calculation, and that's how they determine how much your benefit amount is. So it's important that your earnings record is correct. And unfortunately, if you're trying to fix those earnings back in 1980, decades earlier, and you're trying to fix these decades late, it's difficult, very, very difficult. You'd have to provide your W-2s, and it's definitely try it. I've given several, I've got several videos talked about how to correct your earnings record and stuff. But the important part is, this is why you should share and like and everything with all of the people in your family, those young people. If they're 20, 30, 40s, 50s, tell them to check their earnings record, because it's so much easier to correct that when you first see it. So if you see it in 1980 and you correct it in 1980, 1981, 1982, 1983, it's super, super easy. If you wait until 2025, it's very difficult, maybe impossible, and you just lost that money for the rest of your life. So please, please, please tell everybody to check their earnings record. Okay, so when should you retire? Nobody should tell you you're stupid if you retire at 62, you're stupid if you retire at 67, you're stupid if you retire at 70. There are way too many videos out there that, oh, you should do this, you did that. All of you people on social media, shut up. That might be good for your particular situation. I don't even know when I'm going to start my retirement benefits, because it's not there yet. And people say, oh my gosh, Ed, I thought you were 80. No, come on, shut up. Anyway, it really depends on your particular situation, that particular time. Okay. So number one, if you need money, okay, that's a slam dunk. If you're 62 years old and you're eligible for benefits and you need money, then okay, that's an easy one. Then you need money. All right. Other than, well, and I'll get into whether you can actually receive benefits based on the annual earnings limit versus the monthly earnings limit. We'll get into that here in a second. But if you're eligible for benefits and everything and you need it, then get it. That's an easy one. Other people that have a little bit more freedom, flexibility, should you start your benefits? And I had a case last week, no, it was a 3 weeks ago. Someone that was about 65 years old, and they're waiting. They wanted to wait till they were 70 to collect their Social Security benefits. Okay, perfect. All right, more power to you. But turns out they had a couple of young kids under the age of 18 who were eligible. So if that person starts their benefits at 65, then those two children will receive benefits from that father's record. So there's two more checks, and the children receive up to 50%. So if the parent is receiving $1,500, or excuse me, let's say $3,000, each child is eligible for $1,500. So that's another, the father gets $3,000 and the kids get $3,000. So there's $6,000. And if the person waited for 5 years, that's 5 years lost of benefits. And sure, if they wait till 70, their benefits increase for the rest of their life, but you just lost. So you need to make that calculation and determine. And then if they have what's called a child in care, the spouse is home, the children under the age of 16, then this spouse is also eligible for benefits as well. So that's a calculation you need to take into consideration. Sure, you think about yourself, but if you got auxiliaries, children under the age of 18 that became disabled before the age of 22, they're eligible for up to 50% of benefits on your record. Spouses can't start benefits as a spouse until you file. If you're married. If it's a divorce type situation, doesn't apply. Okay, so, and all of these are exceptions. And if you got questions, that's when you join the live Q&A and say, okay, you said something about divorce versus, so I don't want this video to be 18 hours long. All right. Health. That's an important one. How healthy are you? Genes, your family history. How long does your, family usually live till, 60s, 70s? If that's the case, you probably it's a good idea to go ahead and get while the money's good, right? But if you're very healthy and it looks like everybody in your family lives till, 90, 100 years old, then it just might be a good idea to get while the getting's good. And I've got on my website again, you mygovexpert.com, click on retirement, and then you go down there and you click on the little tab that says when to start. And then there's a benefits calculator that I put in there. Okay. So let's say we're looking at February 9th of 1959. And your PIA is your primary insurance amount. That's your benefit amount at your full retirement age. Let's say it's $2,000, okay? And then you calculate the benefits, and then according to this, the optimal is 70 years old. Again, you have to take your health and your auxiliaries and whether you need the money and stuff like that. But in terms of, got a graph there. If your benefits was 2000, you started your benefits at 62 years old, then let's say you made it till 90, you would make 476,000. This doesn't include, inflation, COLAs, because we don't know what COLA is or anything like that. So this is just, the absolute numbers. But we're looking at about 476,000. So there's kind of a break-even point there. If you start your benefits at your full retirement age, let's see, then, it starts going up, but then there's a break-even point at about 88. So if you live past the age of 88 years old, it is probably a better idea to go ahead and start at 70. Again, so these, any of these calculators and stuff, and there's a bunch out there, and most of them charge you money to download them and use them and stuff like that. Don't completely depend on these numbers because you just don't know. Life is what happens while you're making other plans, right? Are we going to live to 88, 90, 92 years old? If you have a crystal ball and you know for sure that you're going to be around with us till 98 years old, then it might be a good idea to wait till 70 years old because you'll make between 70, if you start at 70 and you live till 98, you're going to make 842,000. If you started earlier, you would make 600. So that's about $200,000 extra you can put in your pocket. But there's other variables as well. But so this is one thing you look at to just kind of play around with and figure out what we're looking at. So again, if your full retirement age is 67, you're talking about 2,000. If you take it early at 62, and so these are all free calculators. So use them or not. Completely up to you and your particular situation. Don't let anybody, unless they ask you a whole bunch of questions and sit down with you and say, okay, what about this? What about this? What about, oh, okay, in your particular situation, maybe you start at 62. But the people out there telling people you're stupid because you don't do this, that, or the other are, anyway. And then there's taxes. If you're in a tax bracket that if you start your Social Security benefits now, you're going to pay more taxes than get with your accountant and say, well, yeah, right now, because you're making all this money, that's going to put you in a higher tax bracket and you're actually going to pay more to the IRS because you're receiving Social Security. So yeah, wait till later. So that's another factor. Whether you can invest and make more money. As I mentioned, Social Security, once you hit your full retirement age, you're looking at about 8% return on your investment, in a sense. And if you can do better than that, then it might be a good idea to go ahead and get that money and invest it someplace else. Right? Politics. This is the crazy one. And I'm going to talk about this, all of the people that there was a massive onslaught of people filing for the retirement benefits. I mean, more than usual. We've got obviously the baby boomers are retiring, and yes, even that this year, because of all the craziness with the Social Security Administration, a lot more people, I think I've seen the last numbers of extra 20, 25% or so, started their Social Security benefits, even though they didn't necessarily want to start their benefits because of the political situation, because of the craziness with Social Security and Doge taken out over and all the rest of it. And I'm going to talk about you, just if you did it and you regret it, I've got an option for you, a couple of options. But in terms of politics, here's the reality. We got 88 more checks. This is the Social Security Trustees report. This is not me. This is the Social Security Trustees, the people that come out with the numbers every single year. And this is the number they came out with. And they said, okay, in 2023, we had $2.6 trillion into the Social Security Trust Fund. We gave money to people. If you were receiving Social Security, you got some money from the trust fund this year. And so $100 billion came out of the trust fund. So now we've got 2.5. So in this year, we might have after this year, we might have 2.3 or 2.4. And then the trust fund is it's savings. The trust fund is slowly being used. Savings don't last forever. And the trust fund is savings that the baby boomers put up for this day. But unfortunately, politicians for the past 40 years have failed to fix this. And so the trust fund is going to run out in 88 more checks. And then you're going to get everybody's going to get a 23% cut if politicians don't do anything. And unfortunately, they haven't done anything to fix this in 40 years. The last major thing that they did to shore up Social Security was back in the early 1980s, raising the retirement age and doing a bunch of other stuff. But since then, pretty much nothing to help, make sure your checks don't stop. So you need to take that into consideration that, okay, I don't really want to retire, but I don't think politicians are going to fix this. And if my checks are going to be cut by 23% in, a few years, and that's a few years, 88 checks, that's about 7 years. It's come sooner than you think. Then some people say, hey, I'll just go ahead and pull the trigger now and start my benefits. So that is a decision that you have to make. So as long as you have all the questions, you ask yourself all the questions, and then you can decide when you were going to start your benefits. Okay. One of the things in terms of receiving benefits early is whether you're working. And then there's people make a mistake about this all the time. If you're under your full retirement age, there's a thing called the annual versus the monthly earnings limit. So the annual earnings limit for this year under your full retirement age is $23,400. So if you make over $23,400, Social Security will hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. Okay? Once you hit your full retirement age, then you can make $1 billion a month and it doesn't affect your Social Security negatively at all. And even the year you turn your full retirement age, there's a different earnings limit. It's like $62,160 this year. So if you turn your full retirement age in July of this year, for instance, between January and June, you're going to make up to $62,160. Anything over, they would hold back $1 for every $3 you go over. Okay. All right. So here's what a lot of people mess up, particularly this time of the year. A lot of people, when I worked at Social Security, and I've taken hundreds of thousands of retirement claims and survivor claims and spouse claims and Medicare claims, people filing for Medicare Part A, Part B, and all that. And this is the time of the year people mess up. And they go ahead and they start their benefits starting in January. And why? Some people, it's a good idea to start in January. But other people start their benefits in January, even though they can start their benefits now. So it's September right now, okay? So it's September, and you work, and you made, let's say, $50,000 this year. And you're like, oh, I made over $23,400. I made $50,000, so I can't start this year, so I'll go ahead and start my benefits in January. You might have just lost a few months of benefits because the year you start your Social Security benefits, the first year you start your Social Security benefits, they can go in what's called the monthly earnings limit. So the first month you earn under this year, 2025, is $1,950. The first year you earn under $1,950, they can start your benefits. So it's September. If you made $1 billion, sorry, old Marine Corps sergeant, so I always exaggerate for effect, as we used to say. If you made $1 billion before September, Social Security doesn't care. They'll say, wow, awesome, good, whatever. They don't care about that. They say, hey, you want to start your benefits in September? We don't care about the $1 billion. When is the first month you're going to earn under $1,950? If you say, oh yeah, I gave up my $1 billion job, I'm going to not work, or I'm going to stay under the $1,950 for starting September for the rest of the year. And Social Security said, okay, all right, we can start your benefits this month, starting September. As long as you stay under $1,950 in September, October, November, December, you're good. Next year, you have to stay under, they can't do that more than once. So next year, you have to stay under the annual earnings limit, the $23,400. But the first year, when you start your benefits, they can do the monthly earnings limit. So there's a lot of people out there. Hopefully, we've got some people some extra money because now they realize they can do that. Okay. What about Medicare? So Medicare, That's the 65 one. And unless you're on disability. If you're on Social Security disability insurance, your Medicare starts after 24 months, which is terrible policy. But yeah, anyway, in the fact that you have to wait 24 months. Yeah, a lot of people said, hey, when you get disability, Medicare should start immediately. I agree. Anyway, I would argue if you start your Social Security benefits, Medicare should start immediately. Why wait till 65? If you start your retirement benefits at 62, shouldn't your Medicare start at 62 yet as well? But anyway, so Medicare is 65. And then there's different enrollment periods. Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, all those, the enrollment periods are just a nightmare. They're very hard to navigate. But in terms of original Medicare, Part A and Part B, when you turn 65, if you are currently receiving Social Security benefits, they will sign you up for Part A and Part B automatically. If you're working and have health insurance from current work, not a retirement plan, but current work, yours or your spouse's current work, and that employer has 20 or more employees, then you don't have to sign up for Part B. You can refuse Part B. Save yourself the $185. Part A is zero premium. So, go ahead and keep that. You can't deny that if you're currently receiving benefits. That's if you're receiving benefits. Automatic. For A and B, they'll sign you up. If you don't need it, refuse Part B. If you need it, then you need to find yourself a Medicare plan because original Medicare is awesome, but there's a lot of gaps in it. The big one is Part B has a 20% gap. So if you get a $100,000 Band-Aid at the doctor's office, you have to pay $20,000 for that Band-Aid. So get either a Medicare supplement plan or a Medicare Advantage plan. I always recommend Medicare supplement. At least check those out, see if it's best for you. But you need to get something. And you can reach out to our partners at Chapter who sponsor our live Q&A, which we'll start here in a second. So that's if you're currently receiving benefits, it's automatic. If you're not and you want Medicare at 65, then you're going to have to file for it. And you can restrict your application. So if you're getting close to 65 and you want to start your Medicare, but you don't want to start the money, no problem. You call up Social Security and you say, hey, I want to start Part A. I want to start Part A and Part B, but I don't want to start my money. Or I want to start my money and Part A, but not Part B. So you can make those different restricted applications. And then if you don't sign up for Part B when you're supposed to, if you're 65 and you don't have health insurance from work and you just refuse it because you don't want to spend the $185, you're going to get penalized when you do sign up for it. So if you don't sign up for it until 5 years later, you're going to get a 50% penalty for the rest of your life. 50% of what? 50% of the benefit amount or the premium amount. So it's $185. You're going to pay $185 plus half of that. So for a total of whatever that figures out to, forever. And you're going to pay a penalty for Part D as well because you didn't sign up when you're supposed to. So super long story short, make sure you don't miss your enrollment period so to avoid being penalized for the rest of your life. If you don't sign up when you're supposed to, you can only sign up basically during the general enrollment period. The general enrollment period is January, February, March. And then if you sign up in January, your Medicare will start in February 1st. So that's the initial enrollment period, which is when you turn 65. The special enrollment period is if you decline Part B because you had health insurance from work. Then when you're 70 years old, for instance, and you go ahead and sign up because you just stopped working, then that's your special enrollment period. And for the enrollment periods, you can also go onto my website, mygovexpert.com, click on the Medicare part there, click on the enrollment periods, and it'll tell you the initial enrollment period is 3 months before, 3 months after you turn 65. You've got the general enrollment period. You've got the special enrollment period, and even got the forms there that you need to fill out to avoid the penalty if you had creditable coverage. So it's all crazy complicated. And then the Medicare Advantage and the Medicare supplements the supplements have health underwriting issues. And so it's all kind of confusing. That's why we partnered with a chapter there to help you navigate. And they're 100% free. So if you need help with all that, and this is also the annual enrollment period, the AEP, another enrollment period. That's coming up. I started October 15th to December 7th. So if you have a Medicare plan, a Medicare supplement plan, Part D plan that you want to check to make sure it's the best one for next year, then, give them a call. Well, Medicare supplements, they're pretty much the same year over year, but you might be able to save some money in getting a cheaper one. So, all right. So here is, this last part. I want to, those people, I think a million or so people that signed up for retirement benefits before they wanted to because of all the chaos with the Social Security Agency when Doge took over. Big increase. And there's a lot of people that said, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But I was watching the news and I was scared of this, that, and the other. So I just decided to go ahead and get my benefits. So this is for you. And for everybody else too, that you do have an option to change your mind. So if you started your benefits this year, here's one thing you can do, or even last year. Time's running out though. It's called withdrawal. So if you started your Social Security benefits and you change your mind, one of the options you have is to withdraw your application. So you can say, but it has to be done within 12 months. So within 12 months, you say, hey, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I should wait, or I just got a job. And so, I'm going to be making a lot of money and I don't want anything withheld and all that stuff. So I want to go ahead and withdraw my application. No problem. Easy, easy, easy. You just have to contact the Social Security Administration and withdraw your application. It's a 2-part process. You withdraw the application. And because you're withdrawing the application, it's like it never happened. And because it never happened, if you've gotten any money since, then you have to return that money. So Social Security doesn't complete that withdrawal process until your check clears the bank and you pay back all the money. So once you withdraw it, pay back all the money, it's like it never happened, so you never received anything. All right, so that's one option for those people that made a mistake and filed, again, within 12 months. Can you work and collect Social Security? Yes. As I mentioned, the $23,400, all that. So people say, well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and work, but somebody offered me a job a lot more, but I guess I can't because I'm receiving Social Security benefits. No, you can. Social Security, doesn't want to limit you there. So if you've been receiving your benefits for a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, and you're still under your full retirement age and you want to go ahead and go back to work and you're going to make way over $23,400, no problem. Call Social Security and say, hey, I'm going to make $80,000 this year. And then they will hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. So if you're making $60,000 over the annual earnings limit, they're going to hold back $30,000 worth of benefits. So if your check is $1,000 a month, then guess what? You're not going to get any checks for the rest of the year. So no problem. But you won't necessarily lose. How this works, it's called ARF. It's adjusted reduction factor. If you start receiving your Social Security benefits, let's say 30 months early, then your benefits are reduced by 30 months. And then let's say after 10 months, you go back to work and you don't get a check for that other 20 months because they're holding back $1 for every $2 you go over. So you only got your check for 10 months. And then later on, years later, when you hit your full retirement age, you restart your benefits. They're not going to restart your benefits, reducing it by 30 months because you didn't take 30 months. You only took 10. So they will adjust it, the reduction factor. And that's automatic. And at 67, they'll say, hey, here's your check. It's reduced by 30 months. And oh, wait a second. No, you didn't take 20 months. You only took 10 months. So hold on a second. Let's rewrite this. And we're only going to reduce it by 10 months from now on for the rest of your life. Here's your check reduced by 10 months. So that's 100% automatic. So, and then there's another option that almost nobody knows about, including Social Security employees, because not many people take them up on this option. It's called voluntary delayed retirement credits. So remember I said if you wait till your full retirement age, you get those delayed retirement credits at 8% every year. Well, you can voluntarily do that. If you're receiving Social Security benefits, retirement benefits, and then you start and you're approaching your full retirement age, you can call Social Security and say, I want to voluntarily suspend my benefits so I can get those voluntary delayed retirement credits, 8% per year. And after fighting a little bit, because most of the people at Social Security, because not many people do this, they are not familiar with it. So you just have to push a little bit and ask for a supervisor, a Title II OS, Title II of the Social Security Act, or a TE, a technical expert. Well, most of the technical experts were moved out of the agency by Elon Musk and Doge. But eventually, you come back here and I'll give you the reference and everything to take to them. But they can suspend your benefits at your full retirement age, and then at 68, 69, 70, you restart your benefits and it adds 18, 16, 24%. So, all right. I think we went down the entire list, and let's get to some specific questions. Oh, one of the questions is when to start the process. Let's see here. When one decides to start collecting, how many months in advance does one start the paperwork process? Hey, Glory. Usually about 3 months ahead of the game is good. So if you're going to start your benefits in January, now's a good time to do it. You can't file, there's small exceptions, but you can't file more than 3 months before. But now with the nightmare at Social Security, and they've, essentially vacated a lot of employees, and there's nobody there to answer the phones and help you out, they're at a skeleton crew. So even 4 or 5 months before, call and schedule an appointment. If you want a, in-office appointment, because you want to see someone personally, you got some other questions, or if you want a phone appointment, 4 or 5 months early. But if you're looking at if you're going to file online or something, then about 3 months early. Sometimes you can do a little bit 4 months early, but about 3 or 4 months early is usually fine. Brad, I heard that the lower earning spouse should start collecting Social Security first. What is the advantage in doing that? Yeah, same type of situation. If I need the money, then it's a slam dunk. But yeah, the lower earning spouse goes ahead and starts benefits on their own record, even if they're under their full retirement age, up to 62 years old, they start getting their benefits. And then when the higher earning spouse starts their benefits, then the lower earning spouse can file a spouse claim. And it really depends on how old the lower earning spouse is. So if the lower earning spouse starts benefits on the higher earning spouse at their full retirement age, then they get 50% minus their own full benefit amount, not their reduced benefit amount. A lot of people make that mistake. So yeah, if a lot of people do that. It's called a split strategy. A lot of people do that. Yep. Can you make a video on how to report your monthly earnings to Social Security when you are receiving SSDI or Social Security retirement if you are working and are not full retirement? Bobby, did you also leave a video comment as well saying the same thing? Is that you by any chance? I'm going to show your video that you left the same video question or comment. Yes. Yeah, to report it. Oh, gosh. Now that AI is answering the phones at Social Security and doesn't work, it's just a battle. But yeah, you can go online through My Social Security and report your earnings there. But anytime you do this, you make sure that whoever you talk to, whenever you do it, you make sure you make a note of it. That on September 9th at 3:39 p.m. West Coast time, I called the 800 number and I talked to John and I told them I am going to make over, $50,000 this year. And then if nothing happens, then, you know what's going on. And this also leads into another question, that if you are going to make over the annual earnings limit for Social Security retirement benefits, do you have to report? It depends. Technically, do you have to report? Yes. Do people report? No. If you're going to make quite a bit over, and they're going to be holding back all your checks, if you don't report it, then what happens is next year, once your W-2s and your IRS, do all your taxes and stuff, once Social Security finds out that you made over whatever, then they're going to say, hey, you owe us 5, 10, 15, 20, you owe us all our checks back. And then they'll send you that nasty gram and you'll have to pay back all that money that they overpaid you. So if you're going to go way, way over, it's probably a good idea, unless you want to hold the money and just pay it back or set up a payment plan. I've got on my website, I've got the overpayments. It tells you the entire overpayment process and the multiple changes that Doge did. They changed this, and then a few weeks later they changed it again. A few weeks later they changed it again. Needless to say, they don't know what they're doing, and that's a fact. I mean, not being partisan here, they don't know what they're doing, so they don't know anything about Social Security. And they're not listening to people that do tell them anyway. So there's a couple of ways to do the overpayments, to set up an appeal, set up a payment plan and stuff. So it gives you all the details on my website there. Again, completely free. But the reason I'm able to do this is because people like Chapter help us out. So please make sure you use them if possible, if you need help. But here's what some people get paid voluntarily, overpaid voluntarily. So what happens is, let's say you're, the limit is 23,400 and you might be 1,000 or 2,000 over. A lot of people just say, you know what, I'm not going to sit on the phone for 3 hours and, yell at some AI. I'm only going to be $1,000 or $2,000 over. So I'm only going to have to pay maybe $500 or $1,000 back. So I'll just let it ride. And it's September. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it over. I'm not sure how many hours I'm going to have in December. So I don't know what to tell. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and forget about it. I won't tell them anything. And then when Social Security sends me that nasty letter in February, March, don't sweat it. It's just, you knew it was coming, and you get it in, February, March, or April, or whenever. And then it says, yeah, you owe us $562, and you cut them a check for $562. Or you call them up and say, yeah, put me on the 16-month payment plan with 0 interest. I like that. So there's a lot of people out there that voluntarily just get overpaid. And Social Security gets blamed for it. So this is one where Social Security has less than 1% incorrect payment amount. But a lot of those are because people voluntarily to get overpaid, because it's frankly the smart thing to do, but Social Security gets harassed for it. Oh my gosh, you're overpaying people and all this stuff, and politicians jump on and they use it as another excuse to tear down Social Security because they want to privatize it. So, but anyway. All right, let's see what else we have here for any questions. Is there a particular age they like to quit the CT scan? Oh, okay. Sounds like having disability type questions there. I told them, I know you used AI for denials. They said, no, we don't. And I said, yes, everyone knows you do. Yeah, that's, you're probably talking about Medicare Advantage plans. They got hit last year for using AI to deny people. They're supposed to, have an actual doctor that is a specialty in that field determine whether your procedure is approved or not. But yeah, the government came down and said, hey, you're not supposed to be using AI like that. But if you're a regular to my channel, was it yesterday, day before yesterday? I did a video on the fact that now the government is allowing companies to use AI to make at least a preliminary denial or approval. But on my website, again, click on the appeals there. If you get denied anything, retirement benefits, survivor benefits, disability benefits, Medicare Advantage, prior authorization, a tiering for your drugs or anything like that, fight it. And on my website, Understanding the Appeals Process, it talks about, fighting Social Security. fighting Medicare, original Medicare, fighting Medicare Advantage plans, fighting prior authorizations, getting your formulary changed, getting your tiering changed on your formulary so you could pay less for your drugs, all the rest of it. And also, within the next week, we're going to have someone from Chapter that helps people out. So helps members of Chapter, people that sign up with Chapter and have them help with a plan. Their member success team, we're going to have that person talk about how to fight for your rights. I'm trying to help someone else. You are too awesome like that, Robert. She lives in a different city from her spouse. I am trying to avoid a loss of insurance. Okay, so she's going to be losing her insurance. We're talking about Medicare Advantage, original Medicaid. What type of thing is she? But awesome on you helping her out. You are too awesome. Penelope. Hey, Penelope. Oh, good question. Yeah. Common law. Google lists of states that recognize common law marriage: Colorado, District of Columbia, Iowa, Kansas, Montana. And those change. I think Ohio, they had it, but then they didn't. So if you can qualify for spouse benefits, even if you weren't married, if the state law recognizes common law marriage. If you held out as a husband and wife, the state determines how that's determined. But yes, and if you think that applies to you, you just contact Social Security, and then Social Security, I think Penelope used to work for Social Security because she is always right on with all our answers. But in Palms, it has all of the details. It tells you exactly, hey, in Ohio, from this year to this year, they recognize common law marriage, and you need to prove it by doing this, that, and the other. So if you think you're eligible based on common law, just contact Social Security, and Social Security has all the laws. Yep. Let's see. The Groove Master 10. What's up? Can a divorced spouse of a marriage more than 20 years, when she reaches retirement age, can she collect based on her ex-husband's benefit before he retires? Can a divorced spouse of a marriage more than 20? Yeah, so you have to be married 10 years, so you're good there. When she reaches retirement age, at least 62 years old. If you're at least 62-year-old, you were married 10 years, you're not currently married now, can she collect based on her ex-husband's benefit before he retires? Yes, that is called independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. I know it's a mouthful. You can collect benefits from an ex-spouse, not your current spouse, but an ex-spouse, even if they haven't started their benefits yet. As long as they are 62 years old, then you can collect benefits on their record. So more details on that. The Groove Master, is this way back Groove Master? Is a Curtis Blow type. Anyway, wow, that's an oldie. Go into family and click on independent divorced, and that's what it is. So independently entitled divorced spouse, you had to be married 10 years. You're not married now. You have to be at least 62 years old. And here's the only addition on this particular thing. This particular benefit, you have to be divorced from that person for at least 2 years. The final divorce has to be 2 years. Yeah. And so, yeah, you have to file for benefits on your own record, and then you can file benefits on your ex-spouse's record, even if they haven't filed yet. They just have to be 62 years old. Okay. And this is another thing that Social Security employees, unfortunately, I've sent so many people down to the Social Security office and I say, hey, you can get those independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. And they go to Social Security, and the person at the front window, who is not usually an expert, they're generalists, they say, no, your ex has to be receiving benefits. And then they come back the next day to our live Q&A and they yell at me. So I put the reference up there too. So you click on the Social Security reference. Let's hope, I just clicked on it. Let's hope the link works here. There it does. It works. So this goes to Social Security, the Palms, 20,000 plus pages of policy. And this is one page of it. And it talks about independently entitled divorce spouse benefits. So if you're entitled to that, you know someone that you're helping out to go get those benefits. Yeah, I would definitely print this out and take it down there. And that way, when the person at the front window says, no, your ex has to be receiving Social Security benefits, then you go, And so there's that. We appreciate people going out there helping other people with their benefits. That's what we're all about. Why does PIA disappear from online account once you're collecting SSDI? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I'm trying to calculate my survivor benefits from my husband. Yeah, well, your PIA is, your PIA, if you're receiving SSDI, you're receiving your PIA. When you receive SSDI, that's your primary insurance amount. SSDI is your primary insurance amount. So what your check is, that is. Obviously, if you're getting Medicare taken out, you just put that back in. But that's your primary insurance amount. But in terms of survivor benefits, then that's not going to be on your online account anyway. So you call Social Security and ask them, if you think you're eligible for surviving spouse benefits or surviving divorce spouse benefits or divorce spouse benefits or independently entitled divorce spouse benefits, and you want to find out if you are eligible in terms of the amount and how much it is and all that, then you call Social Security and you give them that information. But they're kind of cagey because they're not going to give you details until you actually prove that you were related to that person. But you can call and say, hey, I was married to this person for over 10 years, and I don't know if that person's receiving benefits or not, but can I get any benefits on that person's record? And the person will look at the numbers. If your benefit amount, in terms of if that person is still out there alive and kicking, if your benefit amount is less than half, then you can get benefits on that person's record. And they will tell you, they won't tell you how much, they're not supposed to, but they'll say, yeah, you're entitled to benefits on that person's record. Your benefit is less than half of that person's benefit amount. They're at least 62 years old. So yeah, we need to schedule an appointment to get their money. And then you go down there and you get your marriage certificate and divorce decree and you've proven all that stuff. Then they give you the actual numbers, how much you're going to receive. So survivor benefits probably going to be the same type of thing. That they're not going to give you the numbers over the phone. Again, they're not supposed to, unless you've already proven, the relation. Maybe you received that lump sum death payment or something like that. Then they will probably release it to it because you're already technically on the record because you received that embarrassingly low $255. So, and speaking of that, if you need more than $255 for your burial expenses or to cover final bills and medical bills and want to leave your family a few bucks, then contact Dig Agency there and they'll give you a free quote on what's called final expense burial insurance and see if it's right for you. So, and they're another supporter of our channel. So we appreciate David Duford and the rest of their team there. What about those of us who are retiring for government with pension that offered Medicare options? Yeah, if you have federal employees' health benefits, unless you work for the post office and most agencies, you don't have to sign up for Part B. So yeah, there's that. So you can just keep, whatever you have and you'll sign up for Part A, that's zero. Once you start your benefits, Part A is automatic. You can't refuse that after 65. But Part B, you don't necessarily have to sign up for. Some people do because they want some extra benefits, but you don't necessarily have to, unless you work for the post office or unless, again, this is September 9th at 3:54 p.m. As of right now, in most agencies, you don't have to sign up for Part B, but yeah. Anyway, there's that. Marva, do I have to wait until I'm 67 to receive his SSI? He waited until he was 70 and received the full amount. And will I get the full amount? So SSI is the welfare-based program. You mean regular Social Security. Okay. SSI, supplemental security income, is an entirely different beast. But you mean regular Social Security. No, you can start benefits now. But anytime you start benefits early, in this case, then your benefits are going to be reduced. So if you start your benefits now, sure, yep. You have to be receiving benefits on your own record. You start your benefits on your own record, and if your benefit amount is less than half of his, then you can get up to 50%. But he waited till 70 to receive. Yeah, he's not only receiving the full amount, he's receiving the full amount plus basically 24%. You're not going to get that extra 24%. The delayed retirement credits, see how confusing all this is? The delayed retirement credits don't go to living spouses or living divorced spouses. Once that person passes, then the surviving spouse gets those delayed retirement credits. So, but yeah, I would definitely call up and see and say, hey, I'm receiving benefits on my own record. I want to see how much I can get off my ex, or if I can get anything at all. And they'll tell you whether there's any more money on there. And then you go down, file an application, and you can choose at that time. And so let's say you go down there and they say, okay, if you file for benefits on his record now, you're going to get X amount. If you wait until a year, you're going to get an X amount. So sometimes you have to file. It's called deemed filing. But if you're not receiving benefits on your own record, you can actually delay. And anytime you want numbers like that to play around with, you won't get definitive numbers a lot of times, particularly with survivor benefits, until you actually file a claim. But filing a claim and having the Social Security employee adjudicate it is two different things. So you can go down there and say, yeah, let's go ahead and play around with the numbers. Go ahead and put it in the system. Let's see how much am I going to make this month. And then they put it in the system and they give you the definitive numbers and you say, oh, okay, change the MOE, change the month of entitlement till this time next year. How much if I wait a year? And they'll change it, takes a few seconds, and they'll say, oh, it's going to be an extra $300 a month. And you can sit there and make your decision. Or you can say, okay, let me think about it overnight, but don't don't adjudicate that claim until I call you and tell you. And next day you call them up and say, yeah, no, I'm just going to wait. And they delete the claim and no harm, no foul. See you next year. So I've got a few video questions. Let's get into those.
This is Jim from Florida. I was wondering if you could just either do a video or even whenever you do your Q&As, your live Q&As, if you could just let SSDI recipients or regular Social Security recipients, if they do plan to work or if they are working, they need to report it to the SSA. And there's an app they could put on their phone or they could go to the website. Because I know through other people, basically saying when you receive your award letter, it does say if you plan to work, that you must report your earnings, your pay stubs to the SSA. This is
And you just did, and you did it very eloquently, and I appreciate it. So yes, and we talked about, sometimes you may choose not to, but anyway, so yeah, you can call, go onto the website. There's an app. The app is kind of iffy sometimes, but anyway, hopefully it gets better. Dan asks, is there a limit on pension earnings to collect your Social Security check? No, not at all. Social Security, when it started back in 1935, it's supposed to be three legs of the stool: your retirement, Social Security retirement, your pension, which, a lot of times don't exist anymore, and then your savings. So how much you got in savings doesn't affect your Social Security. How much you're getting from a pension doesn't affect your Social Security. So none of that, none of that matters. And so, yeah, there's, on my website, again, keep going back to that's why I build a website, because it answers a whole bunch of questions. On the retirement, pull down there, and then under working and benefits, I've even got a calculator to calculate your earnings impact on your Social Security. So all these free calculators. And then you go down, and I got a bunch of Q&As there, and what counts as earnings. So gross wages and all that stuff, but investments, this does not count. Pension payments, annuities, IRA, your Social Security benefits themselves don't count. Your rental income, unless you're a real estate professional. And actually, your Lottery, no, but gambling, if you're an actual professional gambler, then that's your job, then yeah, that's your job, and therefore, yeah, it does count. So, all right, I think I've got a couple of other video questions here.
Hello, Dr. Ware. My name is Theo Gio, and I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. December 23rd, 2025, I turned 65, and I just wanted to know when I should send in my application for early retirement. So, thank you very much for having the question and answer available to us.
All right, perfect. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, about 3 months before. Again, if you want to do a visit in the office to talk to someone, I would call earlier than that because you're not going to get an appointment for a month or two later. If you file online 3 months ahead, people say, "Well, I filed online. I didn't have to talk to anybody." Well, someone has to review those claims. If you file online, then there's still a human being that has to look at everything and check everything and make sure there's no gaps in your earnings record that they need to talk to you about, make sure all the documentation is correct. So even when you file online, Social Security needs staff, and unfortunately, they ain't got very many. So we need to make sure we file as soon as possible, and that way you get your benefits that you're, started at the correct time. All right, two more questions here. One
Hey,
person
doctor,
is shy
thanks for
here.
taking my question. Um, I'm 65 years old. My wife is 63. Our maximum retirement age is 67 for both of us. I'm planning on starting to collect at age 70 and continue to work full time. My wife may retire and stop working prior to her full retirement age. Our combined income will be well over the limit. I'm just wondering if our benefit will be reduced if we file taxes jointly in that scenario. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I don't do taxes. But your combined income. So I talked about the split strategy that the lower earning spouse goes ahead and starts benefits early, and then when the higher earning spouse starts collecting benefits, then the lower earning spouse can file for benefits. But you're both, when you're under your full retirement age, subject to the annual earnings limit. But you said combined earnings. Social Security doesn't care about combined earnings. Your spouse, if she starts collecting benefits early, then she has to stay under 23,400, or stay under the monthly earnings test for the first year. So whatever you make doesn't affect her benefits at all. So, but in terms of taxes, yeah, you need to talk to tax person on that. All right, I got a last quick one here.
Yes, my question is, if you get disability SSI, can you also get retirement? And what age can you get retirement?
Oops. All right. Yes. So someone was asking on the question, Shelley, what does the I mean in SSI? So yeah, everybody thinks SSI means Social Security income. No, it means Supplemental Security Income. It's a program that Social Security took over in 1974. It's a welfare-based, low-income, low-resource program. The max you can get is $967. So she just asked about SSI. If you get SSI disability, and can you start your retirement benefits? If you're getting SSI, you can get SSI based on disability or being aged, 65 and older. If you're receiving SSI, you have to. Social Security, the government mandates you, Congress mandates you to file for any other benefits you're eligible for, because SSI is a welfare-based program. That money doesn't come out of the Social Security Trust Fund. It comes out of regular taxation. So Social Security employees are supposed to take care of that fund, the general taxation. So if you're receiving SSI based on your disability, when you hit 62 years old, you have to file for retirement benefits. And what happens is, let's say your retirement benefits, let's say it's $500, and you're receiving the max from SSI, which is $967. You'll get the $500, plus you'll get another $467 from SSI. So for a total of $967. So yeah. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't want to get my retirement benefits at 62. I wanted to wait till I was 67 so I would get $1,200 in retirement. Yeah, I know. that's kind of a crazy system, but they should, what you're arguing is a very, very logical point. If they don't force you to get those benefits at 62 and you wait till 67, then you will never need SSI. You'll never need that welfare-based benefit because you'll have enough. But they make you take it at 62 because, so that's an unfortunate part of the logical, illogical part of the system. The death benefit they denied me said it would be deducted from my SSA part of $60. Is that, are we talking about the $255 or the survivor benefits? Yeah, if you get, just as I just mentioned, that if you get any other benefits and you receive an SSI, then they almost always take everything out of your SSI, offset your SSI. So, all right. I've got tons of questions, and unfortunately we're over an hour, and so I'm not able to get to them all. But I will be back again tomorrow. Not sure what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but I'll come up with the topic tomorrow, talk to it about 5 or 10, 20 minutes, and then I'll answer as many questions as I can for the rest of the hour. Y'all have an awesome night, and thank you. And please, 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 please take care of each other. Bye-bye.